Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on getting your small business unstuck with Barry Moltz, class of 1981. My name is Alexandra Stevens and I'll be moderating our discussion today, which is sponsored by the Hyatt Career Center at Brandeis University. So welcome to everyone and welcome to those of you who are listening to our recorded version. I'm very excited to introduce our speaker today. Barry Moltz, class of 81, gets business owners growing again by unlocking their long-forgotten potential. With decades of entrepreneurial experience in his own business ventures, as well as consulting countless other entrepreneurs, Barry has discovered the formula to get stuck business owners unstuck and marching forward. He's a nationally recognized speaker on small business. As a member of the Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame, he has also taught entrepreneurship as an adjunct professor at the Illinois Institute of Technology. He's appeared on many TV and radio programs, such as CNBC's The Big Idea, MSNBC's Your Business, and NPR's The Tavis Smiley Show. He also hosts his own radio show called Business Insanity Talk Radio on AM 560 and writes regularly for a number of publications. So Barry, so happy to have you with us today. And I have to unmute Barry so that he can actually talk to you. So welcome.
Thanks so much, Alexander, for that great introduction. Hello, everyone. It's so great to be back virtually here at Brandeis. I put up the picture of really what I look like in 1977 when I entered Brandeis. And as I was telling Alexander before, I'm not sure I would get through airport security these days looking like that. So I graduated from Brandeis in 81, went to work for IBM for 10 years, and then I started my own businesses. The first business went out of business. The second business, I was kicked out by my two partners about 2 weeks before my first son was born. And the third business, which I actually started 2 weeks after my first son was born, fortunately, in July of 1999, during the internet bubble, I was able to sell that business. I was able to pay back the bank the $1.3 million I owed them. And my wife tells me I got her back just about the same time. So I'm excited to be talking about how to get your small business unstuck. And this webinar is going to be different than perhaps other webinars that you've attended because it's not really going to have a lot of fluff. Although for me, marshmallow fluff is my drug of choice when things get rough. I'm going to give you specific actionable things that you can do right now to get your small business unstuck, whether you're just in startup mode or you've been doing it for a very long time. My whole goal today is really to shift your perspective. It's really to get you outside of your comfort zone because you see, that's not where the magic happens. We go to work every single day and we do the same things over and over and over and over again, and somehow, some way, astonishingly, we expect to get different results. Albert Einstein said this was the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get different results. So I'm going to ask you to do something that someone has probably never asked you to do. What I really want you to do today is I want you to strive for minimal achievement. And what do I mean by striving for minimal achievement? Let me tell you a story. There are these two monks. They're sitting by the river and they're talking about the sheer power of their Zen masters, of their teachers. The first monk says, "My Zen master, he's so powerful, he can actually walk across the river without using a bridge." The other Zen monk says, "That's nothing. My Zen master, he's so powerful that when he chops wood, he chops wood. When he cooks rice, he cooks rice." Now, what I get away from that story is the incredible power we can get by focusing on one thing at a time. And that becomes increasingly difficult in our society because I'm convinced we're raising a generation of attention deficit disorder individuals. We always try to multitask. We're doing all sorts of things at one time. And you're going to take a lot of notes from today's webinar, and you'll probably, after you get off the webinar, you'll be all excited to make all these changes in your business. But chances are, not much is going to happen because you have too many priorities. What I want you to do today is I want you to strive for minimal achievement. Pick the one change that you want to make enact that change. Make sure it becomes a permanent part of your habit before you go on to anything else. So I guess the first thing is our first poll, Alexandra. We're going to talk about, I want to understand where everybody who's on the phone, where you really are stuck in your business. So Alexandra, do you want to bring up the first poll?
Yeah, absolutely. So, where are you finding yourselves stuck? So, you can select one or more. Do you need more sales? Are you having trouble hiring good people? Are you worried about cash flow? Can you just not get anything done? Are your customers not returning? So, take a few moments to weigh in on the poll that's popped up on your screen, and then we will share the results with all of you to see that many of you are in similar boats. So, I'll give you just a couple more seconds to weigh in, and then I'll share the results.
Great. I can't wait to see what it is because usually people are stuck in one or two different areas that are very popular. We'll see what this group is.
All right, so it looks like almost everyone has voted. So I'm going to share the results. So it looks like just more than half of folks need more sales. Hello.
Right?
Um,
Exactly.
about a third are worried about cash flow. 44% can't get anything done. Way to be honest about that. 17% can't hire good people, and 11% don't have returning customers. So
Right. That, that,
back
that
to you.
that's yeah, that really does focus a lot on what we're going to talk about today. I find that usually more than half the people really need to have more sales and people can't get anything done. So the three topics we're going to focus on today are 1, 2, and 4 here. If you're interested in hearing about the other topics, especially cash flow, please contact me. I can send you a separate presentation on that. But first I want to talk about marketing and sales. The problem for most people and where they're stuck is that 64% of small business owners are really confused about how to market their business effectively. You know, there's this old adage that goes, I know that 50% of my marketing is working. I just don't know which 50% it is. And that's problematic because when things get difficult, for example, when the economy goes down, the first thing we cut is discretionary spending. And unfortunately, for a lot of folks, discretionary spending includes marketing. We have to understand that the golden rule in business is that if you don't do marketing, you're not going to have any new sales. And most people get caught in what I've called for a long time the double helix trap. And you can watch this animation. Typically, for a lot of small business owners, things are really busy, then they're slow, then they're busy, then they're slow. And they only do marketing when things aren't busy because that's when they have the time. But as soon as they get customers as a result of their marketing efforts, what do? They stop doing marketing, so their business again goes down. And that really is why revenue stays flat. So what I want to talk to you about is how can you create a systematic way to do marketing that you don't really have to think about on an everyday basis. So I have 3 rules of marketing. The first rule is people buy when they're in pain and have money to solve that pain. In any economy, people will pay much more for painkillers versus vitamins. Think about how much pharmaceutical drugs cost versus vitamins that you might find at your local store. And here's a really quick example on the left-hand side. This is the checkout page. It used to be for Ticketmaster. And after you got done ordering your tickets, if you wanted them sent by standard mail, there was no additional charge. They'd pop them in the mail to you and they send them to you. However, if you wanted to print out the tickets that you just purchased on your printer, they would charge you $2.50. They were charging you to use your printer. How could they do this? Well, because you had that pain. You had to, perhaps the event was tomorrow, or perhaps you did not trust the U.S. mail. So people definitely will pay to solve that pain. And you have to think about who's going to pay to solve that pain. Because if your customers are everybody, you're not going to be very successful. So it's who has the pain that you can solve and who has the money to solve that pain. Because if they don't have the money, then you really can't run a profitable business. So what I want you to think about is completing this 2 questions. The first one is, who do you help? Think about, write down a piece of paper, who do you help? And then what is their pain? Because the intersection of those 2 things really is your business. What is their pain and who do you help? That's really a very central question, and you really should be able to describe that in just one sentence to most people, and your staff should be able to do that as well. Now, brands are really important. We should be able to tell exactly what your company is known for. And some brands out there have made it very, very easy. So, for example, I don't know if you've ever seen this product at your local Walgreens or CVS or other pharmaceutical things. It's a display that's right by the checkout. And these various medicines, it says exactly what it does. So for example, the one on the left-hand side, it says, I have a headache, or I can't sleep, or I have a body ache. It tells you exactly what it solves. Now, this is a really interesting product. It's called Be a Better Parent Tea. Now, they don't call it citrus or chamomile with citrus and mint. They call it Be a Better Parent Tea because the pain is your child's sick, you want to be a better parent. The pain isn't, oh, I really would like some chamomile tea right now. A Plus Study Buddy, probably some of us used this kind of product when we were in college. Again, this is just caffeine to help you stay awake, but they call it A Plus Study Buddy. The idea of A Plus, that's what you want to get on your test. And Study Buddy, when you're up late at night, who can you hang out with? Now, there's a company in Chicago called Dude Wipes. It's like wet wipes, except for guys, it says exactly what it does. And I always like this brand. It says, how mad is she? A, B, or C? Now, for the gentlemen who are on the calls, the right answer is always C, especially with Valentine's Day coming up. So for me, I'm the Unstuck guy. That's my brand. I help small business owners get unstuck, to move their business forward, to get where they think it should be. And everybody also has brand promises, right? So if you look at Apple, their brand promise is technology, is great user interface, the newest, latest, and greatest. If you look at Coca-Cola, what's their brand? It's just a bunch of chemicals, but they've always been known for fun, refreshing. If you look at UPS, they're Big Brown, but what are they known for? People think of them as being reliable. And of course, Google on the right-hand side, what are they really known for? They're known for as easy to use and a trustworthy source, and also for innovative things, perhaps like self-driving cars. So what is your company really known for? What's your brand reputation? If someone says, this is what you do, what words would really come out of their mouth? If you don't know the answer to that, the first thing, that's what you have to do in marketing, is to know what that is. And the way you can get that is ask your customers, why do you do business with us? What kind of pain do you really solve? Now, brands also have expectations, and this is a slide of a picture that was outside Chicago. It was from the Golden Dragon Chinese restaurant, and on their display they said, all you can eat buffet, not mean all day buffet. You don't come stay 4 hours, you eat, you go home. So I think they were really setting brand expectations there. They got a lot of slack for this in the news. So they actually put up another sign which said, you could come with your dog, we'll cook it. That didn't go over really well, so I had suggested another one, which was, bring your dog, we'll walk it for you. This is just a little bit of fun, but what you have to understand is that every brand has expectations, and you have to make sure that your brand promise is consistent. This was a picture that was taken at Kroger's, and I found it very interesting. Me, who actually has diabetes, it says, need help in managing your diabetes? Go talk to the Kroger pharmacist, but it's in a bunch of cakes. So, especially today where authenticity really matters, you've got to make sure that your brand is really consistent. So rule number one is people buy when they're in pain, have money to solve the pain. Rule number two is you have to be there when people are ready to buy. This is a critical importance in marketing because you never know when people are going to be ready to buy. When they are ready to buy, you want to make sure that you're in the maybe pile. You're one of 3 companies they think of if they're going to do business with. That's why you consistently have to market to prospects, suspects, and customers on a weekly basis. This is of critical importance because before there was the internet, brand experts said that it took 7 times before someone actually recognized the name of your brand and your company. Now, with the internet, it actually takes 21 times because things are coming at us so quickly. Rule number 3, if you can't be found, you'll never get chosen. As they said in this Field of Dreams, just because you build it doesn't mean people will come. If people can't find you through your marketing while they're looking, while they have the pain right now, you're never going to be chosen. So where do you start with your marketing? You have to think back to Burger King. I'm sorry, back to McDonald's. This is the Big Mac. I think now there's a triple Big Mac. So this is the double Big Mac. Why is McDonald's such a successful franchise all over the country? For a couple reasons. One is that if you go to McDonald's in Waltham, Massachusetts, and you go to a McDonald's in New Buffalo, Michigan, the food's going to basically taste the same. That's because they have a process by which they do everything. And one of the reasons that you've been failing in your marketing up to this point is that you don't have a process in which to do your marketing on a consistent basis. Now, I know a lot of us don't like to do sales, we don't like to do marketing because we're fearful of rejection. And I want you to really let that go, because marketing is not about selling people stuff. It's about building relationships. It's not Groupon marketing where we're going to give you 50% off or 35% off on the next time you shop with us. It's building relationships so people get to know you and trust you, so they buy from you when they have the pain the next time that you actually can solve. Now, again, product marketing is not is offering products. I'm talking about relationship marketing. So this is something that I used to get from Prime Window Cleaning. They used to clean the outside windows of my house when I used to have one of those in Chicago. And I got this one around the winter holidays. It said end of year savings, combine and save, gutter cleaning and holiday lights. So they were going to give me a special deal. Now, again, this is product marketing. This isn't really forming a relationship with me. Most companies today, they do what's called content marketing. So they're trying to build a relationship with you to know that they can solve the pains that you actually have. So Marmot, which is a great outdoor outfitter, they're not trying to sell you any products here. They have a title that says 7 Female Pioneers in the Outdoors, to let you know that they care about women in the outdoors. Or on the right here, TravelX, where I get my travel insurance. Again, they're not trying to sell me any more travel insurance. They're giving you things like why the 24-hour cancellation policy is a myth, the best time to book a plane ticket. They're trying to give you information to show that they actually do care. Now, you don't have to come up with any kind of elaborate newsletters or anything like that, because people really don't read them anymore. What I'm suggesting from a marketing standpoint is just a very short reach out on a weekly basis to show that you are a thought leader, that you have knowledge in your area. And it can be very, very simple with a very, very important title, because the title really defines if they're going to actually open up the email. So one of my most successful emails last year was, "My wife thinks I'm having an affair." That was the title of the email. Now, when you opened it up, what did it really say? Well, I'm involved in small business, so it said, "My wife is having an affair. My wife thinks I'm having an affair with my business." And that was really what the punchline was. So these kinds of marketing emails are very, very short. So another one that was very popular last year was, "Why stupid people make more money." So it's a couple sentences with a link. And again, even if they don't click through, even if they don't open up, it's one of those 21 reinforcements of your brand that you actually are an expert in this area. And if you need a great title, there's some wonderful tools out there. You can go to this website called tweakyourbiz.com, and if you put some nouns or verbs in there, it'll come up with a really great title. Now, I know that we have our second poll here, Alexandra, and I don't know if Alexandra's there. We might be having some technical difficulties with Alexandra, so we'll move on from that poll. So I've been talking about emailing people, but you can do content marketing in many different ways. You can post articles, you can have blogs, you can do it on social media, you can do case studies or videos. It all depends on how your prospects and suspects actually get in touch with you or how they want to actually consume your information. Now, the biggest question I get asked all the time is, how often should I send this out? Because I'm worried about bothering my customers or prospects. And a lot of people say, well, I'm only going to send it out once a month. And I will tell you that once a month simply is not enough in order to do effective marketing. The minimum is really once every week. So you might say, once every week, that's way too much. Well, think about how many emails you get on a daily basis, and you probably get over 100. So let's say you get 700 in a week. Is getting one email from you, 1 out of 700, really too much? They can just delete it. And if they decide to unscribe from your list, they're probably not a good prospect to move forward anyways. You have to make sure that you don't lose your existing prospects or customers. Every month that you don't stay in touch with these prospects, you lose 10% of your influence. And in fact, 50%, small business owners lose 50% of their customers over a 2-year period. And remember, losing a customer, it takes 7 times more expensive to get a new customer than to sell the one you have. This is just a little L to the right-hand side. When my kids were little, this is what they, I guess, always did. They thought of me. Most of you probably do social media. We've always got to add that into our marketing. I actually think that the like button on Facebook is one of the strongest marketing tools that's out there, and it only takes a split second for you to do it. So think about when someone likes a post that you put out there, what do you see? You see that they like that post, and you think of them for a split second. That's reinforcement marketing, and one of my suggestions is that you put in a separate group or list on Facebook or on Twitter the people that you're trying to stay in touch with, and so you can see when they post, so you can like or retweet what they're doing. It's also very important these days to be authentic. Here is another wonderful picture of me on the left-hand side after I guess I shaved that beard when I entered college. But people want to know who you are. The middle picture here is me getting married in 1991, and then the picture on the right is 25 years later when we put our clothes back on again to celebrate our 25th anniversary. I post all these things on the web because it does show authenticity. People want to know who they're doing business with, and that really helps quite a bit. Social media, the question is, well, how do I find my customer on social media? Well, each of the social media tools has a search bar. Put in the pain that you're trying to solve and see who's talking about those kinds of things. But make sure that you're not doing direct selling on social media, right? Make sure that you have a strategy of how you want to do marketing and manage your reputation when someone tweets out to you. What is also critical in marketing is that your website has to be mobile. Ever since Mobilegeddon years and years ago, where Google wasn't going to highly ranked websites that were not mobile friendly, this is really important because more than 50% of actionable searches now are done on mobile. And 80% people use smartphones actually to surf the web these days. Make sure that your website is mobile friendly. You can go to a URL on Google, which will tell you, we'll test it to see if it actually is mobile friendly. And mobile friendly does not mean that you can actually just see your website. Even if your website isn't mobile friendly, you can see it. It means that it's designed specifically for a mobile smartphone device. It's mobile optimized, and there isn't a lot of pinching and spreading. And that's what I recommend you do. You also have to make sure that you can get found, so you can get chosen when someone has that pain. So you have to make sure that the website has the appropriate keywords. And the key thing here is that you have to constantly update your website with new content and focus on various keywords with tags and things you put in there. And if you need a keyword planner about what tools are popular, Google provides that for you. It's on the bottom of the page here. So a couple of SEO best practices. These are the top 3 things. It's a very complicated area, but just things that you should be aware of. Whatever keyword you choose, it must be used at least 5 times in the body copy and preferably in the first sentence, right? The keyword also must be used in at least one subheading, and the keyword must appear in the title. These are must-haves if you want to get good organic search. Now, Remember, a lot of people are advertising through search engine marketing, through AdWords on the web, and this is an area that's becoming more and more critical as what Google is doing is giving more space to their advertisers and less space for organic search. But what I would be very, very careful about is not to do it alone. I always discuss what's the fastest way to blow 500 bucks. It's not at the roulette wheel in Las Vegas or a local Indian casino. It's really trying to do search engine marketing by yourself because it is difficult. They can help you designing a campaign because you have to stay in the game long enough for really to work out. The ultimate question in marketing and to how to get unstuck in this area is, can you measure the results? Can you take the actions that you just took and can you make them scalable and repeatable? So let me go on to leadership management, and I want to touch off a few things in this area because this is really of critical importance. A lot of small business owners, and I've had 3 of my own, a lot of times I hear them, well, can I run a business where I don't need employees? Because I will tell you that employees are the most difficult part of the business. A lot of owners grumble that they can't find good people, or they always have high staff turnover, or employees don't work hard enough, or quite honestly, people just plain suck. This is a problem for every small business owner because you see, without employees in your business, there really is no leverage. If it's just about you, then you have a job, you don't really have a business. You have to think about when you go on vacation, do you still make money? If you don't make money when you go on vacation, you just have a job. If you can make money when you're on vacation, then you really have a business. The golden rule about keeping and retaining people in your company is if the company goals match the employee goals, then people stay. As soon as those two things get out of whack, people leave. So how do you figure out what the employees' goals are? I have something called you ask them what their bullet is. And what does that mean? That means that when they eventually leave your company, they're going to write on their resume their most notable accomplishments from the time they served at your company. What are they going to list? And so the way you do this is you want to address it proactively. So you can ask them, what do you really want to accomplish by working at my company? And if you help them accomplish that goal, they will stay with your business. One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of small business owners make is that we hire the wrong people. Most entrepreneurs are A players or type A players. You know, they work really, really hard. Unfortunately, because as entrepreneurs, we have pretty big egos. We have a tendency to hire B players that aren't as good as us because out of an insecurity. And then the B players, the people that work for us, they hire their own players who end up being C players. And the C players hire D players. And the company actually collapses from the top down. What you really have to do is you have to make sure that you hire for attitude first, for culture fit over skills. Now, obviously, they have to have a certain amount of skills to be able to do their job, but there's a lot of people I believe that can do that. But are they a cultural and attitude fit into your company? And as entrepreneurs and small business owners, most of us get stuck because we are really bad at interviewing people. We're so busy selling folks to do business with our company. When we go out there and we do an interview, we don't shut up. We just keep telling people about our company and we don't let the prospective candidate talk. The most important questions to ask are, tell me about a time when. You want them to give you specific instances where they were able to achieve or show the skill that you really need in a new position. A lot of people give good interview. They can talk in vague generalities. But if you ask someone to tell them about a specific time when you're able to turn around a dissatisfied customer, or able to resolve a conflict with another employee, or you're able to build a long-term relationship, a specific example, that will really find out, do they really have the experience that you really need? And typically, there's a lot of early warning signs when you go and you hire someone. I really believe that after 2 or 3 weeks, you can tell if someone's going to be a fit in your company or not. One rule that I always live by in managing employees is be slow to hire and quick to fire. Unfortunately, most small business owners, we do just the opposite. We're really quick to hire because we want to get someone's butt in that seat. We want someone to fill that chair. And we're very slow to fire because we're afraid to admit that we made a mistake, or we just can't face being able to let that person go. So when should we fire people? Well, I use something called the Cringe Factor. And I love this picture. It says when there's not a single genuine body part between them. It used to be a lot funnier when a lot of these people were alive. But I use the cringe factor. So what I typically do is I say to myself, when I go to sign that person's paycheck every single week, or I think about paying that person every single week, or writing a check to that vendor, do I just cringe when I have to do it? If you cringe, that means you feel like you're wasting your money and you're not adding value. Another way to do it is to think about that person getting run over by a bus. Are you sad about it? Are you upset? Do you say to yourself, I would hire the bus driver? If that is the case, this person really needs to go. Remember, people respect really what you inspect. That's the most important thing. Whatever you say you care about, people will make sure they care about in their business. And so the final part I want to talk about in getting unstuck, and you talked about this early on at the first poll, is that most of us have a problem with productivity. But the biggest issue is we lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves because we say there aren't enough hours in a day to get what we want to get done. I'm here to tell you that the truth is there is enough time in the day to get the critical tasks done that you need to accomplish. But we use time as an excuse for not doing them or let other things get in the way. We have met the enemy, and the enemy is us. And this is me fighting for my black belt about 3 years ago. If we're not productive, we don't have anybody to blame but ourselves. It's not our devices. It's not our employees. It's not our spouse. It's not our email, right? What we have to make sure is that we avoid what I call these time vampires. And the time vampires are really things that suck your time away from you. So here's some things that are time vampires. The first thing is, are you ever interrupted? Well, of course, we live in an interruption-based culture. The good news is that 80% of the interruptions that we have during the day, they don't need to happen. They don't need to be taken care of right then. We have gotten to the point that we're so used to interruptions that what scientists say is that our average attention span is 6.2 seconds. The average attention span of you working on anything is 6 seconds. That's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi. That's it. That's 6.2 seconds. That's the average amount of time that we stay focused before going on to something else. And that certainly impacts our productivity because we're always responding to our devices. There's a picture of a guy in New York. He was directing traffic at a busy intersection. You can see on 42nd Street. I hear his phone ring or beep or do something. He stops directing traffic, he moves to the side, and he pays attention to his phone rather than directing traffic. I am really convinced, let's see, I got stuck here. I am really convinced that if aliens came down from another planet, they would really think that the intelligent life form were our smartphones, not us, that we were the ones serving them. And I love this picture on the right-hand side because it looks like that we pay more attention to them than them actually serving us. Our devices today demand a response and a hurt of productivity. I was astounded to see some of these numbers about where smartphones are actually used. So 9% during services at the house of worship in a church or a synagogue or a mosque. But what was really surprising, that 38% of us use it while we're in the bathroom. Talk about multitasking. And then on the right, 55% of us use our phones while we're in bed. I could think of a much better thing to do in bed, like sleeping. So multitasking is usually people's response to try to improve their productivity, and exactly the opposite really happens, because what you have to understand is that your brain actually only can do one task at a time. It just switches very, very quickly. So while multitasking does allow you to get more things done, it allows you to get more things done actually less well. So you have to ask yourself, are you busy or are you productive? Here's the definition. Being busy means doing stuff. Being productive meaning getting stuff done. It's the critical things that matter in your business. And one of the biggest issues that we face is that we don't prepare correctly for the day. We think our day is going to be just a straight line to the finish line. But what happens is all sorts of different things, like it's snowing a foot and a half in Boston today, really get in the way. So I'm going to give you 10 ways that you can increase your productivity today. Now, remember, when I talked about the two monks, we're going to strive for minimal achievement. I don't want you to try to do all 10. I want you to try to do just one and see how that goes. Number one, don't start your day this way, right? Don't roll over in bed and immediately go look at your phone. To me, that is a way that you can really shoot yourself in the foot, because it takes you to another place. You get involved in whatever people on the web want you to be thinking about on Facebook or Twitter or your email, and that's really a problem. Try to visualize your daily plan about exactly what you want to get done. And the way you do that is the number 2 suggestion. The night before, name 2 tasks that you need to get done the next day, that no matter what else happens during that day, your day will be successful. Decide on what your priority is. So to reiterate, for today to be productive, what 2 things do I need to do, get done regardless of whatever else happens, and do those first things first? Now, why do I say that you got to pick 2? Well, first of all, sometimes when we get started on a task, we realize that someone else has to do something and we actually can't complete that task, so we want a backup task. Or perhaps the first task takes a lot shorter period of time than you thought it would, and then you have another priority task. This is of critical importance. Think about tomorrow. What are the 2 things you're going to get done that you must get done, so tomorrow will be productive and not just busy? Then once you get to next on your list, you have to prioritize them. And this is the way that I typically make those decisions. If it's urgent and important, I got to do it now. If it's urgent and not important, I delegate it. If it's not urgent and important, I schedule to be done later. And if it's not urgent and not important, well, you should just delete it. I don't know what it's doing on your list anyways. Number 3, make decisions and take action. Psychologists have shown that the longer that we take to make a decision, the more chance that we will become dissatisfied with it. And I really believe that we make most of our decisions in an instant and spend the rest of the time just justifying it. You can get a lot more comfortable with making decisions if you think of it like tacking across a very windy lake, where you basically, in order to get to a point that's straight ahead of you, you have to go side to side, or there are interim parts where you have to go to. So you make a decision, it takes you to a certain place, you evaluate the results, you make another small decision, it takes you another place. If you think about making small, patient decisions, it'll be a lot easier to make those, get information, and get the result where you want to be. Number 4 productivity tip. Deal with every email once. The problem that I find is that we check email too often, and we keep reading the same emails over and over again in our inbox because we never clean it out and we never take action. We always say we're going to do that later. When you encounter an email, you have to read it once, respond to it, set it for a follow-up, put it into a folder, or delete it. Don't keep reading it over and over again. And my suggestion is that you check your email only 4 times a day. Remember, email was not meant to be an instant gratification or instant medium for response. That's what texting is really for. And you can make it very easy to communicate with people, because I know I send the same email over and over again to a lot of the stuff that I get. You can use templated communications for the 4 or 5 different kinds of questions you get all the time. You can either cut and paste them from Word, or you can use different signatures if you're using something like Outlook. I believe that you really should get to 0 at least 1 time per week. And that really means that if There should be no email in your inbox. Now, I've got a prize for you. If over the next week you send me a picture of your inbox with 0 emails in it, I will send you a copy of one of my 5 books. That's my promise, because that's how important I think it really is. Number 5, you've got to do one thing at a time. And I love this picture to the right, because if 38% of us use our smartphones in the bathroom, think about years ago how many tools you really need to use. Now you can just use your smartphone to do whatever you really need to do in that area. Forget about multitasking. And this is hard because technology pushes us. There's this whole thing called FOMO, which is the fear of being left behind. I mean, what I try to do to focus is I use a very low-tech tool. I have a sticky note that's on my computer monitor, and it says one word. It says focus. And whenever I feel like I'm switching tasks too much, I look at that sticky note and I say to myself, focus, focus, focus. And that seems to help. I think what you have to do is track your time. Just do it for a single day, because you will be surprised how you're actually spending your time during that day. There's a great tool out there called Toggle, which will allow you to do that. And just see where you're at, what you're actually doing during the day. You will be very surprised. Number 6, you've got to slow down the flow of distractions, because you don't need to do everything now. Things actually will wait. And the best way to do that is don't have any push notifications on your phone, your tablet, or your desktop. Don't have those tools demand when they should have your attention. You give them your attention when you are ready. And that's really the optimal way to do it. We have to get used to the idea, if we're going to be more productive, that not now is actually okay. You don't have to do everything immediately. Number 7, do not enter a meeting without an agenda, a time limit. Don't sit down. If you have a meeting where everyone's standing up, I guarantee you that meeting won't last as long, and make sure that you have an action plan. In order to improve the productivity of that meeting, I suggest that you do something that a lot of people do when they go out to dinner. It's called phone stacking. Everybody puts their phones in the center of the table, and the first person that answers their phone actually has to pay a penalty, or if you have dinner, they actually have to pay dinner. This is what people used to do when in the old Western days, where you used to put their guns on the table. Now we put our phones on the table so we can just focus on this task right now. Number 8, if we're going to be successful and more productive in business, you've got to be able to delegate to other people. And most small business owners just really want to do it themselves. So here's a scenario. I don't know if anybody's ever read Harvard Business Review study called "Who Has the Monkey?" And this is a scenario that I put together, which shows that we don't take the monkeys away. We don't take the tasks that our employees give us. The monkey, they really give it to us as a follow-up, and we really should give it back to them. So, for example, your employee may say, "Good morning, I'm so glad I ran into you. I think we have a problem." And you as the boss say, "Really?" And then the employee says, "Yes, we're short a blue ribbon, and I'm not sure how much you should buy for stock since we're switching suppliers." And the boss come back and say, "Okay, I'm in a rush right now. Let me think about it, and I will get back to you." So the monkey for getting the blue ribbon used to be with the employee, but during that interaction, the monkey jumped from the back of the employee onto the boss's back, and they have the follow-up. You have to make sure that any meeting that you have with your employees, they actually leave that meeting with the monkey. Number 9, you have to learn to say no, because I believe in small business, the no's count a lot more than yeses. In Steve Jobs' biography by Walter Isaacson, he reported that Jobs got together with his management team every week and didn't talk about how much more things Apple could do. He talked about how they could do less things, how they really should focus on what the customer really wanted. Excuse me. So in your business, you have to learn to do less and prioritize more. Just be good at doing a handful of things that are important. And finally, number 10 is you've got to be able to get off the grid. Because if you get off the grid, you'll be able to re-energize yourself. This is a picture of my 2 sons this last December. Every 2 years since they're 8 years old, we go somewhere in the world to actually recharge. This year we went gorilla trekking in Rwanda. And I find that when I'm off the grid, when I'm not answering emails, when I'm not on the web, when I'm on social media, I'm actually able to have deeper thoughts. My mind actually slows down, and I'm able to become more contemplative and more strategic rather than just responding. Now, if you're not able to do this for a couple weeks, that might not be realistic. I recommend that you have oases in your life. It could be a family dinner where electronics or business doesn't enter. It could be workouts. It could be a vacation. Or if you go on vacation for a day or a week, if you don't feel that you can be away from the office that long, do your work first thing in the morning and then take off the rest of the day and don't check email or social media or voicemail to the following day. If you take these kinds of vacations and get off the grid, you will be much more productive at work. So finally, I want you to understand that getting unstuck really starts with you. It's very critical because your employees will follow your habits. Whatever you do by action, they're going to do. If you're not productive, they won't be productive. If you don't think marketing is important, they won't think it's really important. So you've really got to set the example. And things always won't go right. This is a great picture of Ronald Wayne, and some of you may not know who Ronald Wayne is, but he was one of the original investors in Apple, and he actually got out of being an investor soon after they started. He wanted to get his $800 investment back. If he had stayed with Apple through their entire run, his $800 now would have been worth a cool $60 million. So didn't really, he had a bad day. So I want you to think about, out of all the things that I talked about, where is your business really stuck? What's the one thing that will help you move your company forward, and try to focus on that. Try to strive for minimal achievement. Now, I have a whole book out about this. It's my 5th book. It's called How to Get Unstuck, 25 Ways to Get Your Business Growing Again. If you want more information, you can go on Amazon, and if you get the book and you actually like it, if you could post a very favorable review. If you read the book and don't like it, I sure would appreciate if you just keep it to yourself. Before we get to question and answers, if I can help you in any way, you can always email me at barry@mults.com or tweet at me at barry@barrymults. So I think now, Alexandra, I think that we have some time for some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Barry. That was a lot of fun. And while I was muted over here, I was chuckling to myself many times. So great presentation. Folks, if you do have questions, please submit them now through the GoToWebinar control panel, and we will get to as many as we can in the next few minutes. Barry, first question for you about building your network as an entrepreneur and small business owner. So sometimes it can be quite isolating, especially if you're only interacting with vendors or people directly in your industry. What are your thoughts on ways that folks can build their network outside their industry and maybe get some really honest feedback on some of these gaps that you've discussed?
Well, a couple things. I think one is you got to get out of your office, especially in your home office. I think today it can be very isolating. I still think it's important to get to various live events, local events, chamber of commerce events, various entrepreneurial, small business types of events. And the important thing here, Alexandra, is not to hang out with the same 2 or 3 people that you always hang out with at those events. Make sure that you go out and you meet other people. The second thing is you will be surprised how easy it is to pick up a mentor from any of these groups, that people really do want to pay it forward or give back. And if you ask for people for help, they will actually give you some help, but you just have to ask. I find that so many entrepreneurs just really are afraid to ask, or they just don't get out of their office and they just don't go to a live event.
Great points. Here's an interesting question for you, kind of as it relates to employees, but beyond that, how it relates to partners. So how do you deal with a partner whose values have shifted from the values of the other partners working with you in your business?
Yeah, this is really a critical problem, because I've had good and bad partners over the years. In fact, one of the most interesting stories, Alexandra, is the business that I sold. I actually met that business partner because I went to school at Brandeis with his wife. And so it was very interesting. I met her in 1977, and it'd been really interesting if I said to her, "Hey, Ruth, in about 20 years, I'm actually going to be partners with a man you haven't yet met. So Brandeis again contributes to success. I think the first thing you have to do is have communication. What you have to understand is that having partners is just like a marriage, but really this time without the physical component associated with it. If there is a problem, you have to communicate with them on a regular basis. You should never try to be mad at them for more than 24 hours. You should make sure that you never try to use employees against each other or against other partners. And what's also critical is I hope that you all have partnership agreements that really govern the behavior of partners, especially when things go bad. Most small businesses don't have it, and it gets them into trouble. I've had a lot of experience in this area, and communication, Alexandra, is really key.
Great. So, do you have experience having those tough conversations? Where can you, if communication has been an issue, where can you really begin to dig in?
Yeah, most people bring in a third party like myself to be able to spur the conversation because a lot of times we know that people talk at each other, but they don't really hear what the other person's saying. It helps to have a third party. So you can bring someone in like me, or if you have a trusted friend or an accountant or a lawyer or a banker, another professional in life that you both trust, just have them present for that conversation, and they'll be able to bring out the things that perhaps all of you have not talked about in many years. But it starts with having the courage really to do that.
Oh, we just got a clarification here from the listener who asked that question. One partner doesn't believe in climate change, and our business's brand is based on our client's belief in climate change. So, yikes, core mission differences.
I think it's a problem. I mean, the question is, should that what is that partner really doing in the business? If that's really your brand proposition, they don't believe in it. Because if you don't believe in what you're selling, your customers aren't going to believe in what you're selling. So it might be time for that person to exit.
Great point. Barry, what other resources have you found? You talked so much about social media and marketing techniques, and small business owners typically are passionate about what they're selling and what their business is, but the marketing stuff doesn't necessarily come easily and naturally, particularly with technology changing so often. What resources are there out there to learn more about these different tools?
Right. So you have to decide how you want to do your marketing. So for example, if you want to do marketing through email, any of the tools that perhaps you would buy, like a Constant Contact or Infusionsoft or MailChimp, there's plenty of online tools that will talk to you about how to do that. If your marketing includes writing content or blog posts, it's really easy to go on a lot of these freelancer websites for $5, $25, $50, have an article written for you. So there's good resources that are really out there. If you want to do social media, there is people stumbling over to teach you about how to market through social media. What I would do is I would put into the search engine social media marketing, email marketing, writing blog posts. There's so many great resources out there. The key that I have found is you have to take the time to set up a systematic way that this stuff gets automatically done on a daily basis without you having to do anything. So for example, I use a tool called Infusionsoft, and when someone emails me and they want more information about what I do on my website, they automatically get information that the marketing tool actually sends and keeps following up with them for 30 days by sending them information to see how we can work together. And I don't even have to worry about that. It gets reported to me, but if I'm busy doing something else, the marketing still goes on. So again, reach out and find how you can do the help. There's a lot of great resources out there. Small Business Development Center, there's one in every single community. SCORE is an organization that's in every single community. There's a lot of incubators in the larger cities that will help you as well. So you got to reach out, you got to ask, but you have to take the time. You just can't delegate it and not know what's going on.
Right. So speaking of delegation, going back to personnel management, what are some effective ways to manage remote / off-site employees, particularly people doing web and tech work when you don't have that background yourself and you don't really understand how long a programming or web development task should take?
Right. So first thing I would do is I wrote a whole article on this about how to manage virtual employees on the American Express's open forum site. You can search on managing virtual employees, open forum, Barry Moltz, and you'll get that article. But the key thing is you've got to be able to create a culture of people working together virtually. And that really starts with everyone being on the same chat system. So it's almost like the virtual water cooler, Alexandra, where people are chatting out throughout the day. I also encourage people to use video chat for meetings as much as they can, because when you're just on a conference call, people have a tendency to wander and multitask to other things. But if you're looking at that person one-on-one or two-on-one, you stay more connected. The final thing is you've got to really make sure that you get together with these people anywhere between 2 and 4 times a year, if that is physically possible, because we're still a culture that thrives on forming relationships, thank God, by being in person. But there's much more detail on that article I wrote about how to manage virtual employees.
Great, thank you so much. One question for you, it's a bit broad, but we talked a lot about sales and increasing profits. Do you have any other different type of tailored advice or general comments on small nonprofit owners versus a for-profit business?
Yeah, I think that for nonprofit owners, I think it gets a little bit different because a lot of times the customer, the audience that you're serving, is not the same one that's going to be able to donate money and pay for that service. So
Right.
when you think about the pain that you solve and and who has the money to solve it, you have to think about the pain that you're solving for the contributors, the people that are actually supporting the organization, not the pain that you solve for the mission of the organization, if that really makes sense. So that's a critical distinction. Whoever your donors are, or however how you make income, what pain are you solving for those donors? That's a different question to ask.
Right. So speaking about pain, what do you think about resolving someone's pain versus being more solutions focused when you're selling? So do you prefer to focus on the pain or the solution?
Well,
I
I
guess
think,
that's a
yeah,
question about marketing language in a lot of
yeah,
ways.
I think that people are too busy, too quick to focus on their products or this is what I want to sell you, rather than to figure out what your pain really is, so then I can get a solution that will solve your pain. Again, people buy painkillers. I mean, I think that universities are one of the best painkillers that's really out there. Why are universities able to charge so much money for education? The answer is they solve the pain for the parent, which says, I will do anything to make sure that my child has a good education and a good opportunity. So that's the pain that they're really solving. So if you solve the pain, if you know what their pain is, you'll be able to come with a solution. If you just try to sell them a solution or a product blindly, you don't even know if they have the pain, so they're probably not going to buy it. Again, I use the word pain, Alexander, very specifically because I believe that every single thing we buy is a result of solving some kind of pain. Why did you have that cup of coffee this morning? Why did you spend $5 on it? It's because you feel that with coffee you're more awake, right? Why do you go out to dinner? Or why do you go out to the movies, right? You may want to escape what's going on in your life or have a break. We do everything because of pain.
Right. So speaking of pains, I think we have one more time for one more question. Biggest pain, email. You talked about some great techniques to not get sucked in. Here's a question specifically about minimizing email distractions if you're working from home. So you don't have those face-to-face exchanges. This person's involved in sales or working on an ongoing project with various vendors, they don't have that. So checking 4 times a day is not really realistic for them. So once they're on the device and in the mail program, it's almost impossible to not get sucked in. Any thoughts on kind of separating work from home while working at home?
Sure. The question is, why are you checking 4 times a day? If this is the way the communication is going, what I would do is set up rules. If you have to be on email every day, set up rules for various emails to go into different folders that are of priority, so you don't get sucked in by the emails that don't directly relate to your work or other kinds of spam, right? So if you're working on a product for a certain company, direct the rules that every single time an email comes in, it goes into a certain folder, and just check those folders continuously rather than the general email box continuously. And I think that should help your productivity.
Excellent. That's a great point. So thank you so much, folks. If you have any additional questions, I'm sorry we won't be able to get to them live on the air, but feel free to send us an email. Barry, any last final thoughts for our Brandeis alumni audience today before we go over to some housekeeping updates?
Yeah, small business owners, I've been doing this for 25 years. We all get stuck at some point in time. Don't beat yourself up. Think about why you're getting stuck and reach out to other people to get a solution. And again, I'd be glad to help. I put my email up there and let me know I can assist you in the future. And it was a privilege to do this for Brandeis. I really appreciate what they did for me and they continue to do for me in my life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, folks. If you liked today's presentation, please take a moment and fill out our satisfaction survey. Let us know how we did. We host webinars every single month through the Hyatt Career Center at Brandeis. They're always free. They're on a variety of career-related topics. Barry, if you'd switch to the next slide for me, I can tell them what the next month's webinar is. So it's all about strategies for using LinkedIn. So we talked about social media today. LinkedIn's another great place, though it's changing rapidly. Many of you who are on it may have noticed that it looks completely different than how it did before. So join us for a discussion next month with an executive recruiter to get kind of a behind the scenes look at ways to maximize LinkedIn for your own networking purposes. We also have a group on LinkedIn called Brandeis University Career Connections where you can connect with one another. So please feel free to join that. And then lastly, through the Hyatt Career Center, if you are an undergraduate student or undergrad alum, you actually get free career advising for life through our office. So that includes one-on-one advising appointments, whether they're in person or remote via phone or Skype. So if you do have questions about positioning yourself, working on social media as it relates to your own career, personal branding, resumes, all that good stuff, we are here to help. And then if you want to get in touch with me specifically or the Hyatt Career Center, I want to just share our contact information with you quickly on the next slide. Please know that this webinar will be archived online along with over 35 other archived webinars. So take a look at that at alumni.brandeis.edu/careers. You can also follow us on social media for other career tips. So again, I'm Alexandra Stevens, Associate Director of Alumni Career Programs at the Hyatt Career Center, and it's been a pleasure being with you on this snowy Thursday. Thank you so much to our presenter, Barry Moltz, and I hope you will join us for our March webinar. Have a great afternoon.